Okay, hello and welcome everyone. It is noon Eastern time, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar for the day. My name is Jen, and today we're going to be talking about the auto-assign giver numbers function that we have in our donations module. Now, a few things before we get started. If you've never attended one of our webinars, you'll see you have a toolbar probably on the right-hand side of your screen with some different panels of options. And you may have noticed that your sound for speaking is muted, and that is because we don't want to have too much background noise or interruptions in our webinars. So we provide a questions panel in that toolbar where if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, you can type those in, and I'll do my best to answer them as they come in. And if I am unable to get to them right when they come in, I promise I will come back and answer them at the end of the webinar. So if you have a question, get it in that box. We would ask that you keep the questions topical. So keep the questions to our topic today, the auto-assign numbers function. And if you have specific questions that regard your data for your church specifically, do give us a call to talk about that. It's not going to be something we're going to be able to answer today based on our time constraints. So since we do want to keep this to 20 minutes, we're going to go ahead and dive right in and get started. So the first thing you're going to do is open up the donations module. Let me see here. Oh, it looks like the screen is not showing yet. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the screen now. Okay, so we're going to come here into the donations module, and again today we're working with the latest version of Church Windows, which is our version 19.16.2. And if you don't have that version, do go to our website and you can download the patch there. So the auto-assign numbers function, the word auto in the title can sometimes be a little bit confusing for people. The auto assign doesn't mean that the computer has to automatically assign numbers to people. It just means that we're going to automatically be able to do a large assignment of numbers all at once. So to reach this auto assign screen, we come up here in the button bar and we choose our givers option right up here. And then that gives us all of the options within givers. And right over here, the very last option we have is auto assign numbers. So we're going to click on that and we're going to get a little warning message that just lets us know that only one user at a time is able to access the auto assign and the manage giver numbers function. So all that is saying is that if you do have multiple users in Church Windows, only one at a time can use this function. So we're going to say OK. And next we're going to need to enter a start date. Now the cool thing about this start date is that it will allow us to assign numbers at any particular date we choose in the future, or we could use today's date. If, for example, we wanted to maybe get rid of all the giver numbers or something to that effect. So we're going to go ahead and leave that that date as the start of next year. And I'm going to click OK. Now once we click OK, it's going to populate this screen with our list of givers, and we have several options here where we can select the givers whose numbers we want to be changing. Now we have, starting at the top, two checkboxes. We have include those with number and include those without number. So if, for example, I only wanted to check the givers who don't currently have a number, I can uncheck include those with number. So now I'm seeing only those without a number. And yes, you can use the beginning of the current year. You can enter any date you want. We wouldn't recommend going too far into the past though, because you could end up erasing some of your legacy data, your historical data. So if you wanted to change all of the numbers for this year, even though we're now in September, you could definitely set this date back to 01/01/17 instead of 01/01/18. So yeah, you do have that option. So again, we have these two check boxes up here, and we can toggle between the two of them, seeing those with or without numbers, or we can view everyone with both of those checked. Below that, we have a giver number range. Some churches will use like their 1 to 1,000 numbers for members, and then perhaps 1,000 to 2,000 would be used for visitors. So if that is the case, or if for any reason you only want to look at a portion of the currently assigned giver numbers, you can set a desired giver number range, and that will limit your list. It will limit your list to only those with a number. So if, for example, I wanted to set just 1 through 500, I could do that. And you'll see if I scroll through the list of names now, we're only seeing people with a number, and none of those numbers are higher than 500. I'm going to clear that out. And below that, we have a drop down for named range. And again, like I was saying, perhaps you have a set of numbers, like in our demo data here, we have 200 through 250 for children's envelope numbers. So you can set up these named ranges if you have groupings of numbers that you want to come back to later. And if you needed to add or delete a named range, you have both of those options with our plus button and our minus button. And if I did select one of those named ranges, I could use this little X here to clear it out and go back to my list of everyone. All right, so then we have our list here, and we have select all, and we also have clear selection. So sometimes it may be advantageous to select all and then simply come through and deselect the people we don't want. And to do that, I click the select all, and you can see everyone's names are highlighted. And then what I could do is I could hold down my control key and click to deselect some of these folks. If perhaps I only wanted almost everybody, but not quite everyone, this allows me to go through and select most of the people, but then remove those who I don't want. We also have an option to sort by number if we don't want to sort by name. And if we scroll through that list of sorting by number, you can see all of the folks without numbers come to the very bottom of the list, and they're sorted alphabetically. And the people with numbers are shown up at the top in numerical order. And the final option we have to limit the people we're looking at is if we wanted to exclude givers whose number ends at the end of this year, we have that option as well. So what do we do with all these options? Well, we use all these options to move the givers whose numbers we want to change or remove from the left side, where we select the givers, over to the right side for this givers to include box. So for right now, I'm going to select everyone with a number. So I unchecked without, and I'm going to click select all. And then I'm going to click the right arrow, which is going to move all those folks with a number to the givers to include side. And you can see if I come back and check this box, now this list is full of only the folks without a number. One final option you have up here is if you want to go through and add just a few givers, you can type their name to search for them up here. And then once you choose their name from the drop down, let's grab somebody on here without a number. Let's grab William Arnold. If I wanted to add him, all I had to do is click on his name and he pops in right there. So once we have all of our people chosen on our Choose Givers screen, we click OK. And that takes us to our actual auto assign screen. And here in the auto assign screen, we're going to see these 4 columns. We have the current number. We have the new number starting on that date we picked. We have the giver name and their address. Now, on this screen, we have several different ways of assigning new numbers. First and foremost, we need to click Select All to apply these options to everyone. You also have a Clear Selection button if you want to deselect those people that you selected. So we're going to click Select All, and if I wanted to get rid of the numbers starting on the 1st of next year. Let's say, for example, my church has decided we're no longer going to use envelope numbers because most of our givers don't seem to want them anyway. So we're going to get rid of our numbers because we don't need them anymore. All we have to do is click that Select All and click this X End Numbers for Selected button. And if I click that, it completely clears out the new number column. So that would be how we would completely get rid of the numbers, and then we could click Save and Close. And that would wipe out all the numbers starting on the 1st of next year. Everyone would retain their numbers until the end of this year, but starting next year they would have no numbers. If I were to click Cancel and Close, that would just discard all the changes that I made. Now, another option that I have is, let's say I wanted to assign all of the numbers. Let's let the system do it for us. So what I would do for that, let's say I want them assigned from 1 going upward in alphabetical order. If I click on the giver name column header, it then sorts the list alphabetically by last name. And I can come up here in this Assign Numbers Starting With box and say, starting with number 1, I want to assign selected numbers. So I've got them in alphabetical order, and I'm going to click Select All, and then I'm going to click Assign Selected. And if I clear that out so we can see a little better, you can see now it goes down the list, starting with Nina, Abersheen, and going all the way down alphabetically and numerically. I'm going to go ahead and reset to the current number by hitting Select All and then clicking this button, Reset Current Number for Selected. And that is going to put the current number back in for all of those folks. Now, an interesting thing is happening here. This 6 is showing up as red, meaning that number is already in use. So what that means is this 6 number probably ends for Jeffrey Alexander at the end of this year and is already assigned to someone else starting on the 1st of next year. So we would have to pick a different number for Jeffrey Alexander. So I'm going to click that X to clear out our duplicate number. And then if I come up here back to the Assign Numbers Starting With and I click Get Next Number and I say First Available, that's going to grab me the first available number, which it happens to be number 1. And then I can click Assign Selected, and that's going to pop in 1 for Jeffrey Alexander because that's the next available number. I could also choose Next Highest, and that would give me 516, meaning that my previous highest number was 515. Robert would like to know if after renumbering we can print a list of new numbers. Absolutely we can. It's not going to be part of this window because we have to hit that save and close before those new numbers are assigned. So you would just go in like you were doing a regular report of the giver numbers, the regular lists and labels giver number report. So if we have any changes that we need to make to the givers that we selected here, we have this Choose Givers button at the bottom, and if we click that, it's going to ask us if we want to discard our changes, and I'm going to say, yeah, discard those. I want to choose different givers, and that brings me back to my Choose Givers screen again, and I have my start date here, starting over again. So I'm going to click OK. And it's telling me, yeah, some givers already have numbers starting after that date. And so the auto assign, if I continue to go through with it, it's going to delete those numbers that I previously assigned to people starting on that date and replace them with the new numbers that I'm choosing now. So if I don't want to do that, I can click cancel. But if I do want to do that, I can click OK. So I'm going to click OK. And that lets me start over with this list again. And I could go through and make my selections of the people whose numbers I wanted to alter. Now I'm going to go ahead this time and select include those without number. And I'm just going to grab a few of these people. I can click on them one at a time and use the arrow, but I find that that is not so efficient. What you can do instead is click on one name that you want and then hold down your control key and click on multiple people. That's one little trick to make it go faster. Another one is to click on if there's a range of people you want. Let's say I want all of these people from Jonathan Fisher down to Andrea Green. I'm going to click on Jonathan Fisher and hold my Shift button down this time and click on Andrea Green's name. And then I'm going to move all of those folks over in one fell swoop. John is asking if we can leave a few blank numbers in a certain area. And absolutely you can. You don't have to go numerically. Let's use these folks as an example. If we click OK, what I can do is I can choose my first available and I can click assign selected. Let's see, it's doing something funny there. I'm going to actually close out and start over in case it's hanging on to any memory of those previous ones that we were working with. Let's see. And I'm just going to grab a few folks here, move them over. And let's see what our next highest number is. All right, I'm going to go back and grab those folks who do have giver numbers. I think that's going to be a better example in this case. So let's just select them all, move them over. And if I select all and I end numbers, then I can come through here and I could absolutely, let's say I want to skip around through some numbers. I can go 7, 10. Yeah, you can absolutely leave blank spaces in when you're numbering it alphabetically. If you are going to do a numbering alphabetically, you wouldn't be able to, you might not necessarily know where you need to leave those spaces, John, but if that's a choice that you want to make, you absolutely can. And again, we just click on the giver name column header to sort the list in alphabetical order. And yeah, you can come through, you can enter your own numbers, or you can have the computer enter all the numbers for you like we did before. We clicked select all and we click assign selected. I'm going to clear that out again. Another thing we can do, instead of clicking select all, we can still come through and just choose a handful of people using our control key like I did before. And now if I were to click assign selected, it's only going to assign to those few people I selected. Chris is asking if there's any benefit to giver numbers if you don't use offering envelopes. Chris, I would say there's not. We've had this feature built into the software since the beginning because originally most churches were using giver numbers, but a lot of churches are moving away from that these days with online giving and things like that. The envelopes maybe aren't so necessary. So yeah, there's absolutely no reason, no necessity for using giver numbers. I would just recommend evaluating your church's needs and determining if perhaps it's necessary or not for your specific needs. As far as benefits goes, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would make me personally want to use numbers if I didn't use envelopes at my church. So I hope that answers that question. We are getting to the 20-minute mark, so let's anybody who's got more questions, send them in there, and I'm going to go through all the questions that are coming in. Let's see, Linda is wondering, does no giver number affect families that give together? No, absolutely not. If families give together, they can give together with or without a number. If they do have a number, then if they're giving as a family, they're going to have the same number. So both spouses or all members of the family would share the same number, and if they have none, then all members have none. So no problem using or not using numbers as far as gives with family goes. I'm not sure that the online giving programs require the givers in our software to have a number. I know that when you do the import, you are matching the numbers from the online giving to the names of the givers in Church Windows. But I don't believe that the online giving programs are going to require a number when you're doing that import. If you are having trouble with that specifically, Linda, give us a call and we can help troubleshoot that for you. Okie doke. Are there any other questions? Let's get them into the questions box. And if you don't have any questions, thank you for coming today, and we hope that it's been helpful. You can feel free to sign out if you don't have any questions. If you do, go ahead and get them typed in so I can get you some answers. Thanks again, everybody. Maria, I'm not sure I understand your question. Members who have number and next year will not have number. Can you take the number out before assigning the new? If you are assigning a new number, you can just add an end date for the current number and then add the new number, which is what the auto assign screen will do for you. But if you're doing it just for one person, then that's what you would do. You would go and give them an end number first and then give them a new number with a new start date. I hope that makes sense. All right. Omitting a number for a new year before you give a new number. Maria, I'm still not really understanding. If you're omitting a number, then people who have died. Yes, you would need to end the number for the person who passed away first before you can give that number to someone else. Numbers can only be assigned to one person per date range unless they're giving as a family, and then they share the same number for the same date range. So for example, if someone passed away, last month, you would have to end their number before someone else can start using that number. And the end date has to be at least 1 day different from the start date. So if someone's number ended today on the 29th, then someone else could have that number starting the 30th. You can end numbers for a large group automatically here, or you can do it in either in manage numbers. I'll since I've still got it pulled up here, I'm going to go to manage numbers, and you can see you have a start date and end date column. All you do is type the end date or pick it off the calendar. No problem. Okie doke, any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and close the room now. It looks like that's the last of it. For those of you who are still here, thanks again, and have a great rest of your day and a good weekend. All right, bye-bye.